which I find amazing because we still talk about him as a new boy.
Good move there. You just saw the team car of Team Cofidis going forward. The race referees have allowed them to go through because that gap has gone over the 30-second mark. In fact, that was an attack straight out of the handbook there, Phil. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
He waited for Egoy Martinez to make the effort to nail back the first move, which came from Juan Antonio Fletcher, and as soon as the junction was made, he went straight over the top in a counter-attack, and he very easily opened up immediately a gap of 10 or 15 seconds. What he has to do now is get into a rhythm, concentrate on keeping those legs ticking over. The pain in a situation like this is almost unbearable, but you are able to support it just for a fraction of a second longer than anybody else because you feel now as if you're going to win the race.
The marvellous crowds cheering once again. A Frenchman out front on a day stage of the Tour. And these two riders, I think, though to me they're riding like beaten men here, but they've still got time to put matters to rights. There's the attack that may have decided the day. We'll find out. We'll be back on OLN. Low angle shot of a man who just thought he was going to win the stage of the Tour de France, and he's been outmaneuvered by David Moncoutier. And that's Juan Antonio Fletcher, and so too is his countryman on the other side there, Igor Martinez. The crowd are cheering on two Spaniards now who are over a minute behind the lone figure there as Igor Martinez and Fletcher try now to work out how they're going to stop the French getting back-to-back stage wins in 10 years. It's 10 years since then we've done that. Well, our television camera's got the best seat in the house now, right behind yet another Frenchman in full cry here. Well, they may eventually have to succumb to the likes of Armstrong, Ulrich, Hamilton, and maybe even the Spanish riders Heras and Mayo. But right now, the French are enjoying their own race for the first time I can remember with so much success.
It's a long time since the French have had so much success, and the French teams have had a lot of success out of this year's Tour de France as well. Inside of 5 kilometers to go, look at that face. He's concentrating right now. You can just see that whiteness over his lips. It's been a very hot day out in the saddle. A lot of these riders will have certainly lost a certain amount of salt, and they've had to take on board huge amounts of liquid, probably drinking between 5 and 7 liters of water on this 103-mile race. This man has certainly got the speed to survive. I hope he keeps just a little bit under his belt for the final climb of the day, because although it's not marked on the race profile as a climb, there is a naughty little climb on the run into the finish at around about 2 kilometers to go. And of course, let's not forget, the final 500 meters are not that easy either.
No, the only thing that will help him, he arrives there with a minute to go, which is what he's got, more than a minute now over the two chasers. He'll be able to ride up like Richard Virenque did yesterday when he won his stage. It was too far ahead to be caught. 2.5 miles to go, or something like 4 kilometers from the finish. There, down below, is the town of Figeac. Doesn't look uphill, does it? We have a nice little downhill to it first of all, though, before we climb out. And now things are looking extremely good. He's racing now somewhere around 58 kilometers an hour, and they're never going to catch him. He's still moving away. Our computer steadily counting in his favor. It's now 1 minute and 24 seconds.
Well, Fletcher in second position. I think Fletcher was just trying to surprise those two riders, but maybe he was just trying to hide his form because he didn't have the legs this afternoon, I don't think, to go for a move like this. He won his race in the Tour de France last year on the last-minute burst, which he was able to keep on the way down towards the finish. But this counter-attack by David Moncoutier was a superbly timed move. He waited, I think, for the rivalry between the two Spanish riders, and once they came together after the first initial move by Fletcher, he went straight over the top, and he's never looked back since. And he's in fact really extending his advantage, because it's now not too far away from 1.5 minutes over the two chasers, and he doesn't even have to worry about the main field because they're only just inside of 6 minutes 49.
Yeah, they've just gone under the 6 kilometers to go, I think, for the main field. This man is coming up to inside 3 now. Just got to watch these corners, these roads, twist and turn, duck and dive, adverse cambers. Don't be taking too many risks now. The French crowd here are going to enjoy the occasion now as a Cofidis team is looking to take their second stage win of this tour. And if you go back to April, they were all under voluntary suspension by the sponsors because they were trying to sort out a huge doping problem within the team. They didn't know what to do, so they stopped everybody riding till they sorted it out. They weren't allowed to race again, in fact, until the Dunkirk 4-day race in May. So they've done well to get themselves into shape for the Tour de France. Now they're looking for win number 2. Stewie O'Grady got the first one for them in the opening week of the Tour de France. Now Moncoutier is going to get the second one, because these two boys, a wry smile there on the face of a fairly new pro, at least he's pretty young, Igor Martinez. They are not going to get it under the banner. And in fact, as we're watching these pictures, you might be hearing the cheers now. They've just cheered Moncoutier under the 2 kilometers to go banner. It's not long before he'll be with us here on the finishing line.
No problem at all now. He just needs to not take too many risks on the run into town. There are 1 or 2 tricky little corners as he maneuvers his way into the outskirts of this very interesting medieval town of Figeac. Cross over the bridge, which goes back to medieval times, but now he's in a nice long straight inside of 2 kilometers to go, and he can actually savor his victory here this afternoon, because he's got a huge buffer over the 2 chasers, and of course he'll be able to wait for an awful long time before the main field comes charging into town as well.
Well, the long straight road before we swing right and then climb the nasty little climb up to the finishing line. He won't worry about it now. His gap is 1 minute and 40 seconds. Even down here at basement level, the crowd are packed here, getting a glimpse of yet another Frenchman. There is the kite, the most popular sight by the leading rider of the Tour de France. It means 1,000 meters to the line.
Well, in the outskirts of town right now, and he picks his way through very carefully. Now he can actually enjoy the last few kilometers. You can almost feel the pain being lifted away from his body as he now is looking to see the flag that everybody in the sport of professional cycling would like to see, and that is the last kilometer kite, the red kite, La Flamme Rouge, and he's not too far away from it. And then you can hear the crowd here on the finishing line. They're actually just looking at the big screen here. There's the enjoyment. He knows he's got it, and this is a fabulous move by this young man.
Well, we go back to 1994, and there were 3 French stage winners consecutively. Jacques Duron, followed by Luc Leblanc, followed by one Richard Virenque. That was 10 years ago. Richard Virenque won yesterday, and now Moncoutier is making it 2 French wins in as many days. Wise man, just making sure nobody's coming back at him. Never believe what the judges are telling you in time gaps. Make sure there's nobody in sight, and then enjoy the moment. He's going to win by about 1 minute and 30 seconds on the line, what has been an incredibly quick stage, arriving here some 25 minutes ahead of expected time.
He's going to notch up his win number 11 here, but this, I feel today, Phil, is confirmation of what everybody's always expected from David Moncoutier. Everyone has always thought that one day he was going to be a great star at the Tour de France. Here he's starting to enjoy. He's inside of 100 meters to go. This is his biggest ever win. You bet your life it is. And of course his first, let's hear as he's saying to the crowd here, another victory for France, an incredible ride. Got away with 116 kilometers to go with the other 2. He left them outside of 9 kilometers from the finish, and he's home and given confidence win number 2 of this tour. So they've known every aspect of emotion during this year of sponsorship, but let's hope the 2 stage wins might stop that team from withdrawing the support of cycling. Well, this is a great way to do it. This is a man that they've invested a lot of time and money in over the last few years, and they've been waiting for him to come up to do something very special at the Tour de France. And after finishing fairly high up in the overall classification, you know, a couple of years ago, he actually finished 13th overall in the Tour de France, and they started to tip him as a man capable of getting onto the podium. But that's what he wanted to do today. He wanted to go out and get himself some individual glory. I think a lot of riders in this Tour de France are being given freedom because the big contenders like Armstrong and Ulrich and the rest are waiting for the final week, which is going to be a real serious showdown.
And let's tell you right now, the final week of this year's Tour de France starts tomorrow on the road to the Pyrenees. The last day before we'll call the big famous names, I'm sure of that. You can see the clock counting down now as the 2 Spanish are going to fight out each other for second place today. At least Fletcher's going to get a place on the podium, because when he came into Angers, he was wiped away in the last 1,000 meters, and he didn't get a victory like he did in Toulouse last year. Fletcher and Igor Martinez. Wayne Martinez is poising himself there. He's going to pounce any second. He's letting the climb up here take its toll on perhaps one Antonio Fletcher. There's the time gap for you. It was an amazing gap in the end. These 2 boys knew as soon as Moncoutier settled into his rhythm, they were not going to catch him, so they didn't even bother to chase him down.
Huge advantage. Moncoutier still a minute and 50 seconds since the Frenchman crossed the finishing line, and these two Spaniards, I think, must really be kicking them. I think we tipped these two guys, either one of them, to win the stage. We never ever gave David Moncoutier much of a chance.
No, the commentators' death throes, I'm afraid. We chose one of these two to win, so Moncoutier got the great win of the day. Here's the big effort now, and Fletcher has something left at least. Plenty of gas there. Second for Juan Antonio Fletcher, third for Igor Martinez. Well, there we have it now. Martinez is the rider who has taken third. So as we watch now, the man who's won the day, we'll take a break, come back, we're going to follow the peloton home. That'll be a great sprint. See you in a moment. Back now to take their part in the Tour de France as they sprint now for fourth place from the bunch, and Armstrong's near the front. Here they are onto the bridge now as they make that sharp right turn about 1.5 kilometers from the line. Danilo Hondo looks to be leading it out. Armstrong is third wheel at the moment. Ulrich is taking an interest. He doesn't want Armstrong to take that third place bonus.
There is Hondo in third position, moving up. They're sprinting for fourth place here, and they're trying to set it up for Eric Zabel. Eric Zabel in an ideal position, not too far away from him either Stuart O'Grady, and in fact Robbie McEwen in the green is just a little bit further back.
Well, I'll tell you what, if if Zabel gets this, he'll take the green jersey lead away from McEwen. There was only 10 points between them. McEwen, by tradition, comes late, and he moves to the right. Now, even Armstrong is mixing there on McEwen's shoulder, but it's given Zabel a great finish here. Thor Hushoff is on the wheel now of Eric Zabel, but now McEwen has got the wheel of Hushoff, but has he got the legs? I don't think he has, because coming up the line, it's Hushoff followed by Zabel, and I think just getting in there was McEwen. But he just about hang on to his green jersey there. Armstrong also getting himself mixed up with that one, but wisely just moving out towards the end.
Well, the reason for that was looking down the main field. Once again, you could see there were one or two splits, and Armstrong being very attentive not to lose any time at all on his major rivals like Jan Ulrich, who was at the front end of the main field. This man, despite the bronchial problems that he's got, is turning out to be a very strong finisher. Thor Hushoff just getting the better there of Eric Zabel, and Robbie McEwen making a late burst for the line, will be third across the line. But you know what? The gap between him and Eric Zabel is slowly starting to be reduced.
Well, it was 10 points this morning, and now it's going to be closer than that. He's right on Zabel's wheel. He'll keep his yellow jersey. But this competition is a tight one all of the way to the finish right now. There is Armstrong in fifth place, 6th place here. Same time as Hushoff, but it'll be interesting to note if the other riders have been quite so attentive. Voigtlet has been. Could be a little gap there. It might be okay, but we'll have to wait for the judges. They decide when daylight means different times, but there's definitely a gap there to Voigtlet as far as I can see.
And Ulrich just on the far side. This is the sprint there. You can see in second position in the sprint for the line, and look at that. Robbie McEwen has got the lunge to the line to perfection. He just gets over Paolo Bettini there on the inside to make himself 6th on the stage. A little bit further back is Danilo Hondo. Watch out for that man there, because this man is being very attentive. Lance Armstrong looking for the split times in the main field. He is working out everything to the last minute detail.
Yeah, I have to say that Armstrong paying attention like that is a man on top of his form. I think perhaps tomorrow all will be revealed on the first big mountain stage when we go into the Pyrenees. So we're looking down now at Figeac and the beautiful rooftops here. That's a good cue for us to show you our Pacific Life stage results. David Moncoutier gets the victory ahead of 2 Spanish riders today. Thor Hushoff comes home at 5 minutes 58. Time not so significant on today's stage. He pips Eric Zabel, and behind Eric Zabel came Robbie McEwen, and I think you'll find Lance Armstrong has taken 7th place today. I wonder if we can show you that. I think we can. In fact, they're saying Lance Armstrong was 9th. Seems a bit unkind, but we'll check it out. He was on the wheel of Hondo, that's for sure. Bettini 7th. Stuart O'Grady in 10th place with 5:58. All right, let's have a look at our Subaru moment of the day. And of course, driven by what's inside, the man who was really driven to the line today. It happened just at 9 kilometers to go from the finishing line, and he waited for a counter-attack over the two Spanish riders who were caught really on one leg. And then David Moncucci rapidly used his great time-trialing ability, by the way, to ride away from the field and to a very, very convincing victory today. There you are. That's our Subaru moment of the day, driven by what's inside. So, again, I wonder if we can show you now the latest update in the general classification. If not, we'll take a break and we'll show it you on the other side of the break, because we have the podiums to come. We know who the leader is. Voigtler now takes this race into the mountains in the Maillot Jaune. But this rider has given France a second victory in as many days. See you in a moment. A very hot day on the Tour de France, and of course the eve of the great mountain attempt into the Pyrenees, which comes tomorrow. Let us now have a look at the Foster's general classification, and a familiar sight for the French now. Thomas Voigtler completes a week in the Maillot Jaune, and that is terrific for French cycling. O'Grady stays exactly the same at 3 minutes. They finish by each other. Sandy Cazard stays third, Richard Virenque stays fourth, and Jakob Peel, he'll stay in fifth place, 7:43 behind the leader. I think we can show you quite a few places now. Lance Armstrong, he holds 6th place. When he goes out tomorrow, he's looking for 9.5 minutes to claim the yellow jersey, like he did 2 years ago in La Mongie. Eric Zabel, a grand old man of cycling, is riding superbly, very close to getting the green jersey. He's still 7th. Acevedo, Gutierrez completing there. George Hincapie, he's down to 15th, but Tyler Hamilton in a great position now to launch his assault on winning this year's Tour de France. And also Oscar Sevilla, who's on the same team as Hamilton, is a big danger. Jan Ullrich is 17th, Bobby Julich 18th, Levi Leipheimer 19th. Their time gaps based on Armstrong are very, very close. Boy, it's going to be a great day in the Pyrenees tomorrow. Now back to the podium, and here he is, David Moncoutier, who is at 30 years of age, the next French man to win a stage of this year's Tour de France. David Moncoutier, who is now on the podium, waving to the crowd and enjoying the great moment, as you would. It's your 5th time on the lap of France, the first time as a stage winner.
It's a good win by this young man, David Moncoutier, and he certainly was looking to get himself out away from the Spanish coalition there, because I was a little bit surprised that the Spanish weren't able to work him over on the run in towards the finishing line. But the strange thing is, at the end of the day, this long attack, which happened after 46 kilometers, Phil, had absolutely nothing at all to do with the overall classification, because again, once more, there is still no change in the overall classification, and David Moncoutier did a fine job out on the road, and it's nice to see that Team Cofidis are starting to have a little bit of luck after the bad luck which has really dogged them since they first got involved in the sport.
Well, I'm just full of admiration indeed for Thomas Voigtler, because here's a rider now. A week today, he became the leader, and he fought hard for that, and now he's kept that yellow jersey to take it to the mountains. That's his first ambition, was to get it. His second was to lead to the Pyrenees. I think he's still got the gaps here overall, as he's on the podium as well, receiving his Maillot Jaune right now. He's still got the gaps to lead even one more day, I think.
Maybe even 2. It depends how they race tomorrow. This guy is gaining in confidence every 24 hours. He's riding stronger. His team is completely transformed into a team that are defending him out on the open road, and he's starting to feel that he can actually quite possibly ride through the Pyrenees. But in the back of my mind, I have a funny feeling that the day that he cracks, he's really going to lose big chunks of time.
Well, I hope you're wrong. So as Voigtler steps off the podium, we still have one special man to talk to. When we come back, we'll be talking with Lance Armstrong, and he can tell us then perhaps what he plans for tomorrow. We'll take a break. Welcome back. 12 days down the road in the Tour de France. The mountains are now just over our shoulder, the Pyrenees. But today the French have yet another day of celebration, because the man who won the stage, David Moncoutier, but it's the Australian Robbie McEwen who prefers to live dangerously. He is now just a handful of points ahead of Eric Zabel, beaten again by him in the sprint today. The finishes in the last 2 days, we must say, have favoured Zabel, but McEwen knows how to fight really hard.
He certainly does. This is a battle that's going to go right the way up to the Champs-Élysées. I feel absolutely certain of that. But Robbie McEwen today dug very deep there to try and get himself a few more points. The number of points separating McEwen and Zabel is now down to 9 points, and Thor Hushovd moving that little bit closer all the time, and I don't think we can discount that big Norwegian either, because he's proving to be a very strong finisher.
The only hope that I think that Robbie McEwen has, you know, is that the big Norwegian can't climb mountains, because Robbie McEwen's biggest worry now is the fact that Zabel can climb mountains better than Robbie anyway.
And of course, let's not discount Stuart O'Grady. O'Grady, to me, seems to be riding very well.
No.
He wasn't too far away in that sprint either, and there is going to be a big battle, I think, over the next few days. And Robin McEwen will have to go out and try and get the intermediary sprint points as well, because I think that's where he's going to win the race this year.
That's where he'll have to go now, is nip away the early sprints, because he'll be dropping off the back once the roads go uphill. And tomorrow, of course, they go uphill with the Col d'Aspin and the big climb of 11 kilometres, which will take them up the La Mongie climb. So McEwen knows his days are numbered, and he says himself the only other stage he feels he can win in this year's Tour de France is the one in Paris, and he's won there twice, by the way. We're looking down in the beautiful town here of Figeac, marvellous crowds. We have now got Lance Armstrong with us, and when we come back after the break, we will bring the interview with Lance, and perhaps he can tell us how he's going to win the race tomorrow. We'll find out. Welcome back to the tour here in Figeac. We do not want to waste too much time here, because we have the man himself down there at the moment, and ready to take commentary is Craig Hummer, I think. He's looking for Lance Armstrong as we speak. And Craig, I think, is going to be able to give us a little interview with Lance. Craig, down to you.
Lance, hottest day out there for the tour so far. Oh, there went the tour. Hottest day so far. How tough did that make backing up the longest day yesterday?
It's tough because we were still basically 3 days ago we were riding in 55-degree weather and rain, and today it's 100 degrees and blaring sun, so it's tough, but I don't think anybody's complaining after the first week we had.
Historically, you've made it a point of sending a message within the first stage of the mountains. Looking at tomorrow and the fact that it's relatively flat up to La Mongie, do you think that suits you well?
I think perhaps Saturday's stage to Plateau de Bay suits me better, but tomorrow will be really good for a small explosive climber, somebody who can sit on the wheels all day and then ride a fast final climb. And I don't think what happens tomorrow is any indication of what'll happen in Plateau de Bay and other days.
Thanks.
Well, we'll find out, won't we? But you know what happened last time he went up to La Mongie? Lance Armstrong altered all of his plans on the road, and he won the stage, and he went on to lay the foundations to winning the Tour. We will see all of the action tomorrow. Stay with us. Stage 12 as we go to La Mongie, 123 miles. Note the timings. 8:30. We're live with you instead of 9 o'clock Eastern time. Prime time 8:30. Our pre-race program will come to you half an hour earlier than that. Coming up next here will be Outside Magazine's Ultimate Top 10, and that's well worth watching. So stay with us here, right on OLN. For everybody, goodbye for now.